Hi Srini, welcome to Brand to Bytes podcast. We are happy to host you today. And in this podcast, we'll want to know about your journey as a founder, about Couple, how it has started, what was the idea behind it, some strategies that you tried out in the market that worked out, something which did not work out, and what are your future expansion plans for that. Okay, but before we start, we have a short rapid fire round that we
Oh no.
prepared. There are 10 chits. We have written random questions on it. I would
Yeah.
want you to pick up each chit, open the chit. There's a question, answer it very
Like
very quickly
quickly
because
answer it.
because it's a rapid fire round.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then we move forward to talk about your
For sure.
journey. Yes,
I was just gonna say that I'm happy to be here, but this is very nerve-wracking stuff. But okay,
but yes, I know you haven't
best
seen
of
it.
luck to
Yeah,
me. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Best of luck to you.
Okay, hold on.
So let the audience also
The
see
first
what
one,
you have
and
to
should I
say.
read it out as well?
Yes, of course.
What's that one thing that your team members hate about you, but you know is the best? Oh my god. This
Yes.
is I think that there may be way too many points.
Hmm.
But the most recent one that actually happened was that we moved our office from HSR layout
Hmm.
to WeWork in Kormangla, and it just incidentally happened that my house is right next to it,
Oh my god.
and all my team members
I
come from
know.
very far away. So they were very, almost every day they kind of used to bring it up that, I have to book my cab now, 50 minutes away. But this guy will just walk home. So
Yeah.
that's like the one thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
That's one. Okay.
Perfect.
Let's see. These are like very like hard hitting questions. Does Bangalore traffic is what Bangalore traffic is seen as a productivity or an excuse? To be
For your
honest.
employees,
Yeah.
it's not for you, but for your employees. Like, do they make an excuse that traffic tha isliye late ho gaye, or is it like?
No, I think they all do.
Hmm.
But what I honestly think that if you've been living in Bangalore for more than I would say 1 2 months, then you have to like just add that to your travel time,
Yeah.
right? Like
Right.
today I was late to this podcast, which is actually I can't blame traffic. If I blame traffic, that's actually not okay.
Yeah.
So, but at this point of time, it's not an excuse anymore.
Hmm.
Unless I am sending you to 3 4 places,
Hmm.
then that's a different thing.
Right.
So yeah, it's no one excuse. So sorry.
Team, please watch.
Okay, awesome. If your company had a Bumble bio, what would it say? Oh
I
my
hope you
god.
know what Bumble is.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure. So, firstly, our company is like a couples joint
So
account,
yeah, I think yeah,
family
interesting question
banking
for you.
thing, right?
Yeah.
So, our Bumble bio should not even be on Bumble in the first place. It's so unethical of us as a company to be on Bumble. Get on Bumble and then join Couple. So I don't think we should even have a Bumble bio. I think I got out of this question very well. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Cafe से काम किया है कभी? Which one is the best cafe where you think you can find customers?
It's because cafe culture is growing
Oh,
in
true.
Bangalore. Yeah.
So I think serious answer here. Indiranagar has a cafe called Araku. I think you
I
get the
know.
best quality people there, and
I think Nitin Kamath also used to work from there.
he does, and even Bhavish
Bhavish, yeah, the
from
Ola.
Ola,
Yeah, yeah,
I've seen him at least 12 times there. So that's a great cafe for customers.
yeah.
And I think Beanlore in HSR is a
Bean
place
Lord.
where you find a lot of startup folks, right? So if you're
Yes.
a B2B person, I think fantastic to find all your founders are out there.
Yes.
We're also kind of always there.
Perfect.
Right? So I think these two hands down.
Awesome.
Okay, what do we have next? What's the most Bangalore thing about running and choosing Bangalore as the city? Okay, so incidentally, I'm from Bangalore. So I grew up here. So I got lucky enough that after college also, I got my first job here. My parents are from here as well, in the sense that they moved here long back. So it was easy for me. But I think the one thing that stands out in Bangalore versus many other cities is just the how cohesive and accessible people are. Right? If you're in Delhi, and even if there are hundreds of startup founders in Delhi or Kolkata or Bombay, I think in Bangalore it just so happens that there are pockets where you can run into people. Like serendipity happens very easily.
Right.
You go work at a cafe, you know that if you work there for 10 days, one day you will meet someone who will be a good, it'll be a good sale or
Sales.
it'll be a good partner.
Right.
Things like that. I said Bangalore hands down, maybe in Silicon Valley, but nowhere else in India for sure.
Done. I agree.
You agree, right?
Yeah.
Okay. These questions are not bad, yeah, Mahima. Thank you. Did your parents ever ask startup to ठीक है, but काम क्या करते हो? For them it was more about that. Okay, this guy has an
So
idea.
what happened when you broke out the news that okay, I started this company and this is a startup I want to do? What was their first reaction? जैसे वो 3 Idiots में
So
ऐसा कुछ.
it was like a roller coaster, right?
Hmm.
So when I was first working on a startup idea,
Hmm.
I was already working in a big company and I had
Okay,
a
that.
salary. So it was a side hustle. So they
Okay,
were,
okay.
that's great. It's good to be entrepreneurial, dream big, all that stuff, right? Then there came a point where I
Finally, you
had to
had to,
leave the
yeah.
job, but there's like this delta, the time difference between
Huh.
I left the job, but at that point, startup has not become anything. So
Huh.
it's not that we have crazy revenue or crazy funding. So at that period, it's very uncertain for me, but for them, they're like, I don't know, this is a good idea. COVID has just happened, economy is this and that, and out of concern, really.
Yeah.
But I think it became good again when we, first got funded because
Yes.
I think with most Indian parents, maybe mine at least, it's like if someone else has funded you, means okay. If somebody else trusts you,
Believes,
then maybe
yeah,
something you're doing
yeah.
correctly.
Right.
So they need the external validation
Yes.
to kind of
And when
trust
when
you.
you told them it's the YC that funded, so how was the reaction? Did they
So
know about YC?
yeah,
Is it a
so so our first funding was before YC as well. It was
okay?
entrepreneur
Awesome.
first, and they knew about EF. Like they usually knew that it's a British venture capital fund.
Hmm.
They knew what a VC is.
Hmm.
They knew how startups work and things like that. So they felt that okay, it's validation enough.
Hmm.
They said okay, maybe you're onto something. And then obviously when YC happened, it was much easier.
Yeah,
But by
it's
then
a
itself, they were
celebration.
like, okay, he's doing something at least.
Yeah,
Awesome.
parents actually need external
They need external
validations.
validation, right? You don't need a customer, you need an investor.
Yeah.
That's it. One negotiation tactic that you have mastered with clients and that they love you about this. Oh
Like
my
while
god.
speaking to the clients you mastered, you were not
Yeah.
aware of this happened, but experiences made you
I'll tell
gotten
you,
into it. Yeah.
for me, it's less about clients. So we have a
Hmm.
B2C consumer play,
Hmm.
right? So we barely have to talk to customers to onboard them. They
Yes.
onboard, it's an app, right?
Hmm.
So for us, more the B2C kind of closest thing to this is like an investor, conversation.
Hmm.
So I think one thing that has really worked well, more than a negotiation, but just is the art of talking to investors, is that to be very honest, very candid. The minute you
Hmm.
go to like a conversation as if it's a pitch, because investor pitches are by design, you think it's a pitch,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
The minute you go into it like a pitch, like what, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is that. It typically it can work well, it can work bad. We don't know, but when you think of it as, I'm just gonna talk to this guy as if he's a friend of mine,
Hmm.
and just kind of just very candidly talk to him, then they're able to have a better conversation with you, and typically the conversions are better then.
Right.
So that's one thing I've seen that, and this is an easy tactic, right? Like go into the conversation and just be yourself, and it sounds overly simple, but people don't do it. So I think
Right.
that really works well, and even older founders tell me that this works well. So
No,
validation
that's
again, right? What's the most jugadu thing you ever did when you were in a situation?
I think this backs down from the early days you started out the company, because Jugadu is
Yeah,
when you don't have the money, you don't have resources, you don't have funding, you don't have access. And
yeah.
if you wanted to show something to some client or probably do something, how did you do it?
No, no, absolutely.
Did you
I
burn the
think
midnight oil or did you manage to?
no,
Yeah.
we've tried a lot of hacky stuff, right? So I think in the early days when we were in the fintech space,
Hmm.
we are a neo bank. So we have a bank partner who really has to approve and be our partner, right?
Hmm.
So I think in the early days, I didn't have a banking background. That time we didn't have much funding as well, or
Hmm.
we had sufficient but not enough to that you walk into rooms and rooms open for you,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
And we didn't have any kind of product action that see, we've done this before, now we want
Hmm.
to do this. So I had to kind of go to multiple banks, and oftentimes you would have to sit at these bank offices day in and day out, just kind of, it's almost annoying them that please just take a meeting with me. So I used to go to Yes Bank,
Hmm.
which is near UB City, and kind of just sit out at their office every morning till you get a meeting, right? So you do something, you schedule the meeting in some form, but
Hmm.
then they say, come back next week, and very
Ah,
busy.
right.
But you're like, what? Let's just kind of be inspired a little bit. Can you just be creative? And you're in Bangalore, they're in
Huh.
Bangalore, just show up there. Like they can take
Exactly.
5 minutes of their time then, right? So that's what we had to do during the early days, and I
Finally,
think
they noticed that somebody has been waiting for us every day, every day.
exactly,
So
and
that's.
maybe he doesn't have a banking background, or maybe
Hmm.
he's so very driven towards this problem that
Right.
something he'll do.
Yeah.
So कुछ
Makes
तो
sense.
कर लेगा this
कुछ तो
guy.
कर
So
लेगा.
let's just meet
इतना
him.
डेडिकेशन है, रोज आके बैठ रहे तो कुछ तो कर लेगा.
Exactly.
Right, right,
So
right.
I think that was the big thing, and with banks we did many other things like this only.
हाँ हाँ, we will
Showing
talk
up
about
and
it. Yeah.
all of that. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Shen. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe in fake it till you make it?
Did you do it
Oh,
in the initial days, or you still do it, or See,
Yeah.
I know you're a funded company. That's not a valid
No, no,
question, but
that's
just
no, no,
just a
for sure.
perspective, because every founder would want to showcase numbers which are not the actual true numbers.
Oh my
So, do
God.
you really do it, or you just fake it,
No, no,
or
no.
how do
So
investors or even the customers perceive it from that angle?
So I think I think it's a very important question because before I was a founder, I think what used to happen was that the metrics were very different. So in my space, in a lot of spaces,
Hmm.
in that bull run period, there were a lot of vanity metrics where installation,
Yeah,
download, these were the the key
important
metrics. That if you
KPIs.
did
Yeah.
that, if you had this many downloads,
Hmm.
you're gonna be great
Agreed.
funding and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But thankfully that changed because when that was the case, faking it is very easy.
Hmm.
Faking downloads, I think everyone knows that you can buy downloads on
Yeah.
Google
Yeah.
Play, right? But in my time, it was about users, account holders. These
Hmm.
are KYC number of account holders with the data you can't fake.
Hmm.
And you can't create a person, create an Aadhaar, things like
Hmm.
that, right? So it had to be real data. So we
They
never
used to
faked.
track the MAUs and these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Because there's nothing else that is worth tracking apart from real users, real account holders,
Hmm.
real transactions.
Yeah.
So we never faked that. But I think what I still fake all the time is faking confidence, right?
Ah,
Like when you're
that's
young, you're like, no, I fake. You try to you wake up, pretend that you're a founder who knows what he's doing. When I didn't know what I was doing. Now you fake that you're a founder who knows how to really scale. I may not know it yet, right? But then you fake it so you become
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, but no faking numbers, kids. Like don't fake numbers. But yeah,
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
awesome.
No,
Last
faking
one,
confidence, I think, is very important, and
very
that
good.
has to be
And
faked,
always
because
right.
every elder person also who has been on stage like hundreds of times is not confident.
I know, and even 10 years from now, I'll be
Yeah.
faking confidence for something else, right?
Yeah.
What is the funniest thing or weirdest customer feedback you have ever got till date? Oh my god!
This
So
can be funny as this can be better. You can tell me both.
no, I think oftentimes the weirdest ones in our business is that customers signed up and they really email us, or we have a thing on our app where you can close the account, and you close it for multiple reasons. Maybe you didn't like the app, maybe you found a different joint account, but data you want us to erase. But sometimes we get this, that I've parted ways with my wife or my husband, or
Yes.
we're about to separate. And it's very shocking. Sometimes see boyfriend girlfriend on the app separating, you don't really think much of it. Right? We've all gone through it. You see that okay, husband wife separating, and that's why they're removing couple. Like okay, you're thinking about couple during this kind of a time as well. That's the weirdest. I wouldn't say funny for sure, but it's the weirdest kind of always shocks us every few months when it happens.
So these use case keep happening, like
So
even
it happened
the
8 times so far for married
oh.
couples,
Hmm.
and I'm guessing they're all genuine. So you can close the account without telling us you're getting a divorce, right? We're not going to judge you for that.
Okay,
But
so they send you emails on that, or they send you that,
yeah,
okay,
no,
oh,
it's just like a process. You go to the app and you have
okay.
to
So
say
raise a
account closure and
ticket,
give
or
a
oh,
reason.
okay, 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 got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
So then
my
you can
God.
delete your
So,
details and all that stuff.
understood, understood.
Yeah. Anyways,
Sure, I think that was a quick one. Srini, I think you did very well and you finished, I think, very quickly.
oh,
So
did you?
let's go back to the time when you started Couple. How did the idea come up? Like you just mentioned, you were working
Sure.
somewhere else
Yeah,
and you were managing it as a side hustle. So
yeah.
how difficult was it to manage it as a side hustle, and how did you make this as a dream that okay, now it's the time to launch? How difficult were those days? I want to
Yeah.
talk about the early days of your journey. Yeah.
So I think there's something firstly to point out in that question that
Hmm.
you know I think with most people what they're building today. So the day I'm at a podcast being asked this question,
Hmm.
and what I started off building as a side hustle are obviously going to be very different things,
Very
right?
different. Yeah.
So for me, though, it was a very different space. Also, I was as side hustle, I was building something in the insurtech insurance
Okay,
distribution
okay.
space,
So you pivoted
and
after that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then I joined a program called Entrepreneur First, which is like this
Hmm.
-1 to 0 VC incubator program
Okay.
where you go in there, find a co-founder. You have
Is
three
that
months
still
to.
valid today?
Yeah, it's still valid. So
Okay.
they have an office and a cohort that happens here in HSR every year.
Okay.
It's a global thing. So there are
Hmm.
6 cohorts globally. The one in India is in Bangalore.
Hmm.
They select 40 people every year. You come to the batch, 20 business, 20 tech people,
Hmm.
find a co-founder, and then start building something. So
Awesome.
when
Hmm.
I joined EF, the objective was to build in the insurtech side. But how we kind of chanced on Couple was that neobanks had become very new to India, right?
Right.
So globally, we saw insane outcomes like UK and LATAM. There
Hmm.
were neobanks that were wildly profitable. Um, insane valuations, great value to customers as well. We thought that now that it's come to India because RBI regulations, we said, there's a great potential here. So we were both, my co-founder and I were very excited when we were just discussing this, right,
Right.
as just two friends.
So how did you meet your co-founder in EF only?
In EF, yeah. So
Okay.
he also joined the program.
Hmm.
And kind of what we felt was that the early neobanks that had come up, they were solving for this general savings account use case, right?
Hmm.
In India, we didn't think that savings account were a problem. Like for example, if you have an HDFC account and if you have Google Pay, Phone Pay for payments, you don't need another neobank,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
But if as a founder, which you are, you would love to have like this current account neobank where TDS payments payroll is automatic. Like that would be
Yeah.
a value add for you,
Yeah.
right? Instead of manually doing it through
Yeah.
HDFC.
Yeah.
But personally, you don't need another
Yeah.
fancier app.
Yeah.
Same way we felt that that vertical approach that is great for neobanks, right? There are so many big segments in India, a huge country. There are millions of startups, millions of couples, millions of teenagers, blah blah blah. They need personalized banking, right? Which is not there in India. So we started off trying to solve for the startup bank that I told you, TDS, payroll, all that payments, GST manually. I mean, like instead of doing manually through the banking app. And when we tried to validate that problem statement by talking to people, we started hearing back that people don't have a problem with that so much. Maybe we asked the wrong questions, but what they started telling us was they have more problems with shared banking. So, for example, investments with their partner,
Right.
goal-based saving with their partner, borrowing money from banks with their partner with different credit scores, and the main thing, which is this high-frequency shared expense management with their partner.
Right.
So then we figured that hey, 15 people we've spoken to, they've all talked something about this
Sharing and
money
partnership.
problem with
Yeah.
their partner. Let's kind of explore that further, right?
Yeah.
Heard about shared banking, couples banking, realizes there could be something here because we are asking questions also to be very broad. Instead of asking that hey, you're a founder, what are your issues with startup banking? But we instead of asking that, we would ask them that what are your issues with money overall? How do you manage money at home, by yourself, with your partner, and then they would give us this insight. So taking up that early insight, we spoke to more people, validate the problem even more. We first thought that the problem was on savings with couples, but then after some pivots, which we'll go
The
into, of
sharing,
course,
yeah.
we realized that shared expenses was the problem. And
Yeah.
we realized that shared expenses, of course, is a problem, and people want to solve it using joint accounts, want to solve it using splitwise.
Yes.
And when we saw that people are already trying to solve it on their own, that's when we figured that hey, if people are already trying to solve this problem, it means it's something that people are thinking about. It's a big problem for them, and therefore it's definitely worth at least looking at
Right.
as a space.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so that is where after you sampled out with people. So how did you do that sampling, Srini? Like, whom did you ask? Did you go personally asking, or did you try to do the surveys, send out emails? So just
Yeah.
to understand, because again, we are doing it for the early stage people. So they
Sure.
want to understand how you basically approach people, who are the right ICP you approach. How do you recognize that, okay, this is not the problem, this is. So maybe let's dig a third level deeper and talk about how did you figure out that, okay, this is the sample size I want to take, these are the people I want to go for, and how many people you spoke to that made you realize that now it's time to pivot.
Yeah, I think that's a great question because I think a lot of first time founders make this mistake of they have an idea. They now building code is also fairly easier. They just build a product and then they launch that and then they then get feedback on hey, is this even solving a problem for you? And that's a good thing to do. It's good to launch fast and get feedback. But what's more important is to validate the problem very clearly before you write a line of code.
Right.
Right. So I think we got that learning thankfully by talking to other people that at least talk to 40-50 people, get a sense of whether this problem is real, and talk to them not saying hey I'm trying to build this product, shared expenses for couples, is this a good solution for you? Instead of that, just talk to them more about that. How do you currently solve this problem?
Right.
Is this problem for you in the first place? So for us, that sweet spot number was 100, right? If you could talk to 100 couples, we'd be very happy. Now, thankfully, we over a span of many months, we spoke to about 250, 300 couples, but it was very difficult because early on, nobody wants to talk to you, right? And you don't want to put in your cloud too much to get conversations. Like you don't want to say, hey, where these IT bits guys.
And how did you reach out to these 100 couples? Was it through?
So it was three channels mostly. One was through friends. So we would talk to friends who are already married. and married couples know other married couples.
Yeah,
So we'll
yeah.
say, can you connect us to your
Yeah,
friends?
yeah,
And we
perfect.
got cool, like, each couple would give us at least 8 more conversations
Hmm.
quite
Right,
easily. So
right.
that was one. The next one was LinkedIn. So those posts are probably still on my profile, where my co-founder and I and our product designer, we had a small team back then. We would basically just put a small post saying, we're trying to build something here for couples, money
Understood.
management. Can we have 15 minutes of your time? And we would ask for very little time. Sometimes we would ask for only 5-10 minutes, and then we would logically extend that to 20
So
minutes.
that was like a form that you put there as a link
No,
and
it's not a form either. It's just
comments
that,
you put.
just
Okay.
DM us if you're interested
Okay,
in
okay,
talk.
okay,
Because
okay,
we really
okay.
wanted to have that
Face to
face-to-face
face conversation. Oh,
conversation.
yeah, yeah. Makes
So,
sense.
so we
Yeah.
would do that. And then I think through that journey, we also randomly would talk to single people also to understand that from your perspective, right? Like when you get married, what's something you think about in terms
Yeah.
of money management?
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of got those conversations basically through,
Understood.
through that. That's just before we built the product. After the product, we spoke to customers
Yeah,
also.
yeah, of course, of
But
course. That's like a valid point.
yeah.
So apart from that, Srini, I would want to know. So these are the early days. I'm happy to understand that these are the challenges you had. These are the things which you basically dived in.
Yeah.
So post that, when did you realize that now is the time that you should start branding or you should start coming out in the market that okay, this is what you're building? Was it LinkedIn that you picked up as a platform first to just keep posting things, or did you start writing a probably a channel on Medium where you put
Hmm.
your thoughts as articles or blogs, or did you just reach out on WhatsApp? Like, how did you start marketing and telling people, apart from obviously your friends and references,
Sure.
that okay, Couple exists before even you were YC funded? This
Yeah.
is before or even before you were funded. So, how did you basically create that impact?
So I have a very interesting answer. We actually don't do any marketing at all, right? So and I'll tell you
Even
why.
till today, you don't do.
Even till today.
Okay.
So and this is probably a very different kind of take of
Yes. Yes.
for your channel, right? So I think our thesis was very simple that if you build something people want, you don't have to spend too much money in marketing in the early days. Marketing is great variable expense used to scale, right? But if you need to do a lot of marketing to get your first few customers, then there's probably something wrong with what you built. And obviously, you need to get eyeballs on your product early on, right? And that can come through various ways, right? But if you spend, it's too easy to spend too quickly, too early on marketing. So our thesis was, let's launch the product. When we launched, we had a wait list, thankfully. So the wait list was about 700 people.
Okay.
We said, okay, from this wait list, at least X percentage should surely convert. Now, ideally, if you're building a good product, then from that wait list of, say, if we had 100 conversions, then from that 100, we will have word of mouth and users will come from there. So that's the kind of hope that we went with. That let's get 100 users at least. After that, let's wait till that 100 becomes 500. Then let's understand who these 500 are, why they come to the app, also get their feedback to make the app
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
But more importantly, understand who they are, why they want to use this app, and what's the problem that they're using this app to solve.
Solve. Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's a single income couple that's just using this app to budget. But a dual income couple is using this app because they don't want to split, and it's an easy way to split. So let's understand those use cases, and then let's use that insight to then launch marketing campaigns. So
Understood.
that's what the objective was. But incidentally, what happened was we grew pretty quickly without. We thought we'll wait for 500 users and then do all of this. And
So
then,
was it through because waitlist again creates exclusivity? Same
yeah,
like I think OnePlus also did when they were launching the first flagship.
yeah,
So
that's a good
yeah,
example actually.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I think
was
that
particularly
waitlist was obviously for exclusivity, but I
yeah,
think exclusivity creates a kind of FOMO also in audience. So they want to, and this kind of business that you're building
yeah.
is again very interesting in the terms for not just couples who are already couples, but also couples to be.
Couples to be as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So for us, the waitlist did help with that. Like the waitlist, I think some people think of waitlist as clearly waitlist means the product is not ready. Some people think waitlist means oh my god, like this is
something big is
important,
coming
right?
up. Yeah.
So I'm sure we got a mix of both grounds. And I think when we launched, obviously when we launched, we informed the whole waitlist that they were live. Out of 700, about 500 converted, and that was a good
Wow.
base to start off with. So we already knew that hey, people were waiting. That means
Right.
now let's wait for a month and see if they're using the product. And for us, usage means transactions. Are you
Yeah.
putting
Yeah.
money? Are you transacting
Yeah.
using the Couple app, etc., the Couple card, all that stuff? So that was the initial kind of first set of users we got. And then yeah, like you asked, word of mouth was about 70% back then.
Okay.
And some people found us through self search. So people would search for us on Google, and
So your SEO is strong. You have done the SEO
So
game.
we've not done SEO. We're doing SEO now. Our
Okay,
SEO became strong because of a strong ASO, because of our ratings,
understood. Yeah.
and because we were lucky enough to get good PR, right? So
Hmm.
we got into Forbes.
Okay.
That was great PR. We got into YC as well, which also becomes good PR beyond just the investment side.
Yeah.
So people, when they search for joint account for couples, even without SEO, they would find us. Now they find us on top,
On top.
but
Yeah.
before that they would find us down, but they would find us.
Hmm.
But most of our users came from word of mouth.
Awesome.
Yeah, which
Awesome.
is always a good thing. So,
Yeah, awesome. So Srini, like while you were speaking about this, so I was thinking, why should people not use Splitwise and should use Couple? I would want to know
yeah,
that.
so
Like
I
because
think
Splitwise obviously is for friends, for a single person also to manage his or
there
her
you go.
budgets.
You've answered it yourself, right? So I think Splitwise is great for friends. It's
Hmm.
great for travel, but it's also good for couples who don't live together. So if you don't have daily expenses,
Hmm.
let's say it's a couple. For example, few years back when I was
Hmm.
working, right,
Hmm.
crazy schedule. My partner back then, we used to meet once a week,
Hmm.
either on Friday or Saturday, and then we meet again next week. And then there was COVID as well, so your weekdays you're just kind of working, right? And even if there wasn't COVID,
Hmm.
you're probably not meeting your girlfriend on a daily basis,
Yeah.
right? So for that, Splitwise is pretty good because every time you go for dinner, you can probably put on Splitwise, and every
Hmm.
month you
Hmm.
do the settlement. But you can also find hacks that one weekend you pay, one
Hmm.
weekend he pays,
Hmm.
etc.,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
So for that use case, it's good.
Hmm.
But the minute you have to do recurring, right? So
Hmm.
every day ordering Zepto, Zomato, maybe rent payments, electricity bills, how much can you add on Splitwise? And when you're married to someone or when you're like in a living
Hmm.
serious relationship, Splitwise is weird. Because Splitwise is like A owes B this much money.
The language and
I know.
copywriting is such, yeah.
The UX
Yeah.
is not good for
Not
that.
good for that, yeah.
Because when you're married, there are two, like the dichotomy is that one is that everything is your money because you're family now,
Yeah,
right?
of
So
course.
it's not yours and mine.
Huh.
Yet you have to classify. Because if I pay rent,
Agreed.
say 1 lakh,
Hmm.
and my salary say 1.5 lakh, and I pay 1 lakh rent, I only have 50,000 left. So I expect that the split comes back to me because
Huh.
I've paid rent on her behalf as well, for
Yes,
example,
yes,
right?
yes.
So splitting is important, but so the best thing to do is have a joint account because then it's not like yours and mine. Yet we get to categorize it as well.
Yes,
That's
yes.
why you should not use Splitwise if you're a serious couple.
And I think the
I would say.
name actually rings a bell. The
I
name
know.
that you Splitwise obviously tell you that you have to always keep splitting the money, and
Exactly.
it has a negative derogation also. But
For
I
sure.
think for your couple, again, the name stands for that. Like, okay,
I
it's only
know.
for couple. It's only
It's only for couple, and we trademarked that name as well. So it's clearly just for
it's clear.
couples.
Yeah.
It's very evident that even if we don't think about money first, we
Hmm.
know that you're a couple. This could be something useful to you.
Useful for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, right. Perfect. So I think I want to know more about your YC funding. How did that journey
sure.
start? Like, were you aware of YC before you wanted to get funding, or somebody recommended to you?
Yeah,
How was the application journey? How much time it took you to get accepted? How was the experience there? Maybe you can tell me in short because obviously we have short of time, but you can always
yeah.
tell me the best experiences and how were the crowd there? How was the community? Are you still a part of that community? Are you still talking to them? Do they still help you in uh, decisions where you are stuck somewhere? So how has that experience shaped your journey as a founder, shaped couples journey also,
Yeah.
plus how many learnings you have got from there? Because people, YC
Hmm.
is something people always look up to.
Yeah, for sure.
So for you, how it
Absolutely.
has been a game changer?
Yeah. So as a brief context, when I
Hmm.
was in before Couple, I used to work as a management consultant. So I used to work at EY,
Hmm.
and we used to have clients who were large companies.
Hmm.
Instantly, the building right behind us was also a client,
Okay.
and we also had startup clients, so
Hmm.
late stage startups.
Hmm.
So instantly, one of my clients was in the e-commerce space, was a YC, company from about 8 years back.
Hmm.
So back then itself, and this was a unicorn, company doing extremely well.
Hmm.
And I always knew that YC was one of the early investors. So that's the
Hmm.
first time I heard about YC.
Hmm.
Now, just following the startup space for even a little bit of time, you'll realize that all the best companies that you can think of have an association with YC, most likely being with YC being the first investor, like
Hmm.
Airbnb, Dropbox, OpenAI as well,
Hmm.
right? So that's the context of YC. So we
Hmm.
knew that YC is a very prolific seed stage investor. It's a program, so it's very difficult to get in as well. And it was very aspirational because when we started building the fintech space, we saw that the largest fintechs in India were YC
YC
companies,
funded,
like
yeah.
Razorpay, Grow, which are very aspirational guys.
Yeah.
Were from YC. Even the guys who were 2, 3 years older than us, right? Who were fintechs for maybe 3, 4 years before I started out. They were also from YC. So clear aspiration was there. So YC process is very simple. You fill up an application form. The form is very detailed. It talks about, they get a very good sense of your business and yourself as well. You fill a founder's form as well, so they understand who you are, what you've done beyond just like building your personality as well. You record a small video, which is one of your product video, which is a product demo, and a founder intro video, so they get to know your personality. And that is probably filled by about 20,000 people. Now the conversion there is about, I think, 1 to 2,000 people get called to an interview. The interview is very
In the
interesting.
States.
Yeah, so that it used to be in the States. Now it's now because
It's virtual.
globally,
Okay.
people are applying. They do it virtually. Now the interesting thing is the interview is a 10-minute interview. That's it.
Okay.
So in 10 minutes they ask you basically like 50 questions. So you have essentially 5 to 6, maybe 20 seconds maximum per answer. Because these are questions that you can't really bullshit your way through. So if the questions will not be, what is your vision for like the next 5 years? That you can bullshit, think, all of that.
Yeah.
No, they'll ask you, what is your month-on-month retention for the last 3 months? That is either it's 20%, it's 0%, or I don't know. It's not that this, that, and all of that, right? So they get a good sense there as well, and they have some secret sauce where they're able to kind of figure out for sure whether this is the guy to fund or not. And
Right.
that's it. That's the process, right? It's just that from 20,000 applicants, you get to 200 companies through these two steps. Now, the YC journey was really, very much life changing for me personally as well as for the company. We learned a lot about first principles thinking, about building things people want, not building things we want, or the things that are cool to build, or ideas that are
So
great.
they teach you through case studies, real life case studies, make you
Yeah.
meet the real people, like you mentioned, Razor Pay and Grow. Okay.
Exactly. So it's a mix of probably three things. One is, of course, one is the capital, of course. Then is you have these office hours. So office hours you have your group partner who's essentially a general partner at the fund, and you meet him every 2 weeks to kind of track progress as to you discuss goals in that batch. It's mostly just your company's goals and how you kind of very numerically hitting those goals. You have group office hours where you have a group of out of 200 companies in the batch, but 20 companies are in one group, and you essentially have a call with those 20 companies. So
Right.
you have peers as well. It's like a class room, right? Which is quite nice. You see people building with you as well, even though they're building very different things. That's one more. And then you get to actually interact and meet and hear from these very senior founders. So like
Alumni,
Brian
yeah.
Chesky from Airbnb,
Wow.
the founders of, again, Dropbox, of
Oh, you have
Reddit.
met all of them.
Some of them,
Some.
but I think if I were in SF for the whole batch, I was just in SF for a couple of weeks at the
Okay,
end.
okay.
But if you were there the whole batch, I would probably have met all of them.
Wow.
But yeah, all the guys that you admire, you know from them, you hear their very candid stories, the ones they don't talk about in podcasts, right? Because things that are pretty embarrassing as well, right?
Yeah.
Which gives you a lot of faith as well. So that's one more. And finally, you learn really the first principle stuff. For example, one thing founders get wrong all the time is, as I said, like building something they want. Like, this is a good idea, let me build it. Instead of actually talking to a customer and understanding their problems. Doing things that don't scale. That's one more big learning from YC, that people build a product and then they want to spend 5 lakhs in marketing immediately. Whereas we were taught that, try to get 1 lakh users without marketing if you can, right? That's a better way to build your business.
Right.
Word of mouth retention is a good number to track instead of just installations and downloads.
Yes.
So these things, became guiding principles for us as well.
Right.
Talking to customers, that's one more big thing. Even today, my co-founder talks to maybe at least 50 customers per week. We talk to 6,000 of them personally at this point. So,
Yes.
so these are things that really still stay with us, and I think will stay with us for a very long time. Next startup also, maybe.
Perfect.
If there is there as well.
No, I think this is a good learning experience for the viewers also, because these things actually matter a lot,
Absolutely.
Srini, because people actually think that okay, this might be a problem in the market without sampling a particular group, that okay, this is the problem. They do not do that survey, and that is where they fail also. That's the
where they
major
fail also. And it's obvious that they will, right?
And I think most of the founders we also work with, they have already tried that paid marketing thing. They already, without even consulting, knowing they think that if they put money in paid marketing on Meta ads, Insta, they'll get customers. But that's not a sustainable way to run business.
Exactly.
So for that way, I think this is important that, like you mentioned, mentioned, without retention you should
Yeah.
calculate, without getting marketing you should get those
There you
100 users. So
go.
that's actually a valid point. Being a marketer myself, but I'll still agree with
Yeah,
that you
no,
should do,
marketing is
because
great
that's
as
again organic. You do branding, you
exactly.
talk to people. That's also a part of marketing. It's
Yeah.
not mainstream
It
marketing, but
is,
then
yeah. It is part of marketing. It's just non-paid
non-paid
marketing,
marketing,
isn't it?
yes, that's
Yeah,
again the
absolutely.
strategies, the hacks that you have to see, add those things. So that's good. So I
100%.
think YC part was good. We understood your journey. I think I would want to know more about marketing, but I think we are running a little short of time.
Yeah, for sure.
So anything, talking about the tools that you may
Yeah.
have used earlier, or you would use now, like
Mm.
if you do not have a marketing team Srini, in the
Yeah.
company. So how do you get out those, how did you manage that landing page first, or how do you make sure that the content assets that you're making is reaching out to the right people? Maybe some ebooks, some playbooks, maybe some visuals for your social media. What tools do you use, and how quickly are you running out of these new designs for people to know? Because again, your customers are B2C. Couples would want to read and learn more about the visuals. So
Sure.
visual communication, how do you do it? Any
Oh, great
tools you
one. Yeah.
use, or you have a team? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so so far we've not really had a dedicated marketing team per se. So the tools, but we obviously use tools for marketing, right? So, but it's all about data. So one is what we initially used to use was we're a banking product, right?
Hmm.
So we have card transactions which happen through Couple card, and we have these bill payments, the
Hmm.
things you see on Phone Pay and Google Pay,
Hmm.
or your best com bills, things like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
So we have two different dashboards and portals, which is with the respective bank partners, where we are able to track those transactions. So that's
Hmm.
the first source of truth. Now, what we did being a tech company is we created our own internal admin panel
Hmm.
or a dashboard where
Hmm.
we get the entire all the data from all these sources, both
Hmm.
from AWS, which
So
is
you use their
our
APIs to
server.
make a
Exactly. We use the APIs to create a dashboard on a tool called
internally.
Supersets.
Okay.
Supersets gives us one dashboard with
Hmm.
number of users,
Hmm.
active users that month, transaction volume,
Hmm.
deposits, everything in one shot. So we know
Hmm.
clearly, and we also have created graphs and pie charts. So quickly we can tell how that trajectory is going, especially since we're in an organic growth flywheel,
Hmm.
right? So we're not
Yeah.
really trying to do paid marketing where we're seeing an ROI, but
Hmm.
we want to know that growth is at least linear, if
Hmm.
not little
Hmm.
exponential.
Hmm.
That's one. Now we recently started using Link Runner, which is an attribution tool. So
Hmm.
we have a billboard now, which is
Hmm.
again was thankfully not paid, on the Razorpay office, which is a quick
Wow.
billboard ad of Couple, where we added a QR code. So at the end of it, it's a QR code. It's a big one. I think it's a 5 feet by 5 feet QR code. So someone could just scan it, and it goes to the app.
Hmm.
So we're using tools like Link Runner for attribution. So
Hmm.
wherever we have either links, deep links, or QR codes, we clearly know that this number of users have come from this source.
Hmm.
This is how they're performing on the app.
Right.
So we know for sure that the 100 users that came from the QR code on Hosu Road
Hmm.
have given us this kind of transaction volume, therefore this much of revenue, etc.
Yeah.
Versus people who come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to use Link Runner, which is similar to a
Hmm.
Web Engage or a Clever Tab, to
Okay.
attribute, or it's like a mixed panel, right?
Okay.
In
Okay.
simple
Okay.
words,
Okay.
to
Got it.
attribute when you do paid ads
Hmm.
and other kind of
Hmm.
paid marketing
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
We used to use Web Engage. Now for some time we haven't because of a cost structure difference
Hmm.
that we're taking a small pause from there.
Hmm.
And beyond that, in terms of visual design,
Hmm.
we use Figma. We try to change the design of our app, or improve it every week.
Every week. Okay.
We release a new version of the app every Monday,
Hmm.
where we do some kind of design tweak. Both this is UI design, both in terms of visual
Hmm.
or UX as well, right? We
Hmm.
know that this card, button should be a little bigger because people are
Understood. Yeah.
pressing it a lot more.
Hmm.
So that way, we're also trying to use these kind of tools to understand where the clicks are more. How
Hmm.
can we make the UX better for that? And
Hmm.
UI, though, you can keep improving for life,
Yeah.
right? So there goes Figma and a product designer who's constantly working on that per se.
Awesome, awesome. No, that's quite a useful information, Srini, because I think these tools would people would want to know,
Yeah.
like which one they should go, because like you mentioned, Web Engage, mixed panel, all these are very costly, especially
Very
for a
costly.
person who is just starting off. Even we
Exactly. The
tried it,
early
so
stage is
quite, yeah.
true.
So it's always better to see that, okay, if we get a freemium version for something which we
Yeah.
can use for credits, if it's going good, then obviously we have to buy it. So
100%.
pocket friendly is very, very important for early stage startups.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. And I think one last question I would want, although I do not want to stop asking you a question because it's a quite a valuable information that you're also giving. But any future advice that you would like to give to a person who just wants to venture into a market, just like for example he does not have access to communities, he does not
Hmm.
know about YC, he does not have any funding access also. So that person is new to Bangalore, say, let's
Hmm.
take an example of Bangalore. So how do you think he or she should meet more people, develop that community, and tell about his product without spending a penny from his pocket?
Okay, that's a great question. So I think I think the first thing would be to find a mentor, right? And now the best part of this is
And how do they find a mentor?
exactly finding a mentor who is 5 steps ahead of you is very
Yes.
tough, right?
Yes.
And it's not even very useful, right?
Hmm.
For example, today, if I had a mentee who is just starting out, I would not be able to give a lot of value add because maybe my patience also would run thin. I would maybe not have the same problems that he has now or she has now.
Right.
But having a mentor who's just one step ahead,
Once.
right, is much better, right? It's like really having a teammate, but who's already clearing the way for you a little bit, right? And obviously, in due time, having a mentor who's 5 steps ahead is good because they are able to make key introductions for you, right? To
Networking wise, it's good.
investors
Huh.
and things like that.
Hmm.
But I think finding a mentor who's one step ahead is not very tough.
Hmm.
So you come to Bangalore, people in Bangalore by design are so friendly,
Yeah.
right? So if you cold outreach, somebody on LinkedIn
Hmm.
or on Instagram, based on, let's say you're a creator and you want to find someone who's just a few thousand followers more than you, or a founder who's just a little senior to you in terms of age, I think that would be one good thing, right?
Hmm.
LinkedIn. Now, there's also one good thing is if you're from colleges that have a wider alumni. So I'm not talking
Hmm.
about just tier
Hmm.
one college,
Hmm.
but any
Hmm.
college where the alumni is a little spread out, it's quite likely that you do have an alum who is here. Now,
Hmm.
alums typically, I think, want to help each other. So
Right.
tapping into the alumni base from college, perhaps, or finding a mentor who's one step ahead in cold outreach on LinkedIn, I think typically will find something to. I mean, you'll find a response for sure.
Hmm.
I think that's a good starting point. Um, that's a good place to be when
Hmm.
you building something from scratch.
Hmm.
Now, the second thing I think overall in the first few steps here would be that to really again validate the problem. Once you
Hmm.
validate the problem and once you're really solving something that is worth solving, so you have an idea that you start off with, you probably not validated it, you spend 3 months to validate it, you end up at a point where this is now a problem worth solving.
Hmm.
Invariably, what happens in a place like Bangalore is if you are solving a problem worth solving,
Hmm.
people want to help
Want
you.
to help you.
Yeah, people just
That,
want to
that
be
I
like,
agree.
what,
Yeah.
this is good. I think if it's a B2B thing, then you meet someone at an event and say, I'm solving this for these kind of companies.
They introduce you to
He can
10
say,
different.
I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
this is great for my
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
I will connect you.
Agreed.
In
Agreed.
B2C, it's easier to relate as well.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
oh, cool, I will use this myself.
Yeah.
So these two things, right, I think would be a great first step. After that, it's a lot of, take your time. Some
Hmm.
luck is well involved. Increase your surface area of luck.
Hmm.
Build quickly, and it's your general advice that people see
Right.
everywhere else as well.
Right, right. No, no, agreed, agreed. Like, I 100% agree that Bangalore people are humbler than any other city
For
in the
sure,
world.
right? Yeah, they're
So,
very open to helping you, for
yeah,
sure.
always, always. Yeah, I think that is huge amount of information that you gave. Good, valuable information,
I hope
Srini.
so.
It was really good for the viewers also to see and manage.
For
Thank
sure.
you again for coming,
Thanks, man.
Srini. I'm glad that you came throughout the information that you had. I hope that people who are watching you would actually benefit from the tools you mentioned, the
Absolutely.
journeys, the
Yeah.
lessons. And I think I'll mention your social media accounts also so that they want to reach out to you.
Absolutely.
And thank you again for coming. Have a
No,
lovely day.
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Thanks so much for
thanks.
having me.
Thanks. Yeah.